Wrapped by Michael Northrop, Chapter 3. The next class started, and I think it's fair to say no one was in the mood for geometry. I don't even think Mr. Peregrino was, and as near as anyone could tell, he lived for that stuff. He gave us a pop quiz anyway. He had it printed up already, and I guess he felt like it was as good a way to wait for the announcements as any. As soon as we had our heads bent down over the quiz, cell phones started going off. Not ringing, of course. Cell phones weren't allowed at Tatawa, and they were kind of not kidding about that. The first time you were caught, you got a warning, and after that you took the suspension bridge. That meant detention the second time, a longer detention the third time, and then suspension. I was more concerned about indirect proofs at the moment, but the room was quiet, and every now and then you could hear a cell phone, a cell vibrating in someone's backpack like a big fist-sized bug trying to get out. Kids would cough or scratch their chairs back to cover it up. But let's be honest, if you're smart enough to teach indirect proofs, you're smart enough to figure that out. Peregrino didn't move, though. Didn't even say anything. He should have been adding names to the list left and right, but I think he understood. Parents were getting worried, wondering if their little angels, were coming home soon. And I mean, isn't that what cell phones were for? Like originally, before all the apps and web surfing and rapping ringtones? When I was a little kid, I had a dinky round cell phone with one button so that I could call my mom or she could call me. It had some embarrassing name like Doodlebug, but it really should have been called Leash. Finally, 15 minutes and 4.5 questions later, not counting one that I skipped, the loudspeaker crackled to life with the official word. May I have your attention for an announcement, please? This is your principal speaking, it began. I don't know why. I mean, we obviously knew it was Throckmorton, and he obviously had our attention. Due to worsening conditions, school will be dismissed at 1 o'clock this afternoon. All athletic and extracurricular activities have been canceled. All buses leave at 1:15. Thank you. Pete leaned across the aisle and high-fived a kid named John, who everyone called Drumstick. Of course, Drumstick wasn't going home at 1:15, and Pete would be stuck here with Jason and me till 4 or so. Drumstick turned to high-five me. At first, I was going to leave him hanging. I mean, my game had just been canceled. I hesitated maybe half a beat, and then reached out and slapped his hand anyway. When it came right down to it, it wasn't about my game or whether I'd be the first on the first bus out. We were forced to go to high school, stuck in here and marched around like livestock. Anytime they had us let us loose, they had to let us loose. It was sort of like a victory, you know. We knew it didn't amount to much, but we broke off little bits of freedom, and we high-fived when we did. The kids whose phones had gone off before took the opportunity to stick their hands deep down into their backpacks and bags to switch them off. They didn't really need to. The lines were already getting swamped and the service getting worse with the weather, but none of us realized that yet. I didn't have to worry about it in any case. I didn't have mine with me. I had already had my warning this marking period, and detention was not an option for me because it meant missing practice. All right, cool it, said Mr. Peregrino. This class is not over yet. And that was true enough. It seemed a little unfair that we had to finish this quiz after all. I really had no clue about question 3, but after that, all we had was lunch. So we were basically done. I mean, the way it was coming down now, they probably wouldn't have sent us home on the spot, except I think they were legally obligated to feed us before throwing us out into the snow. Since it would turn out to be my last meal for quite a while, if you can call the school lunches at Tatawa a real meal, I guess I'm just going to allow that line to just speak for itself. I actually remember little things about that lunch, like how the whole cafeteria had a bursting through the roof sort of energy to it. It was louder than usual, and people were moving between the tables, talking and laughing. I remember the snow drifting sideways and to have crescents in the window panes. And I remember that I didn't eat my corn. I don't know if I took a bite and thought it was a little too soggy or if I just remembered that it had been soggy the last time, but I left it there on my tray. I mean, what is it with school lunches and the bad, crappy quality of food? Good grief. Yeah, as dumb as it sounds, that bothered me for days. I mean, soggy or not, it was decent corn prepared by people who were at least borderline professionals. It was definitely a whole lot better than what I'd end up eating soon enough. And I just thrown it away. I still remember the little flash of yellow as I pushed the tray onto the conveyor belt that took it into the back of the kitchen, where the giant hissing dishwashing machines were. Whoever thought you could be haunted by corn niblets? After lunch, Pete, Jason, and I sat on the floor of the hallway outside the library and watched the buses roll slowly into the storm. The hallway had these big, tall, safety glass windows. Sitting there, looking forward, it provided a pretty amazing view of the snow outside. Mr. Trevor, the assistant principal, hustled by and stopped short. He was a big black dude, which I only mention because, generally speaking, this area had about as much color as the snowstorm. What are you guys still doing here? He said. We had to sort of crane our necks to look up at him. Jason's dad is picking us up, I said. He's got the 4x4. Trevor considered this for a second, or more likely, he considered us for a second. We weren't really troublemakers, but none of us were going to be elected Student of the Year either. We were sort of right in the middle, discipline-wise. I'm sure that made us the hardest sort of kid for Trevor to figure out. A four-wheel drive, huh? He said, still trying to size us up. Yeah, said Jason. You know, those big buses on these slick roads just seems like the truck's a little safer. Plus, he's just down the road working in Canton today. I looked over at Jason. He sounded pretty convincing. He was doing this right because everything he said was true. He was just leaving something out. Those were the easiest lies to tell. Trevor didn't say anything for a second. He was thinking about something, maybe about how the school buses could barely make it up some of the hills around here, even in the best weather. What Jason was leaving out, of course, was that his dad wasn't planning on picking us up for another several hours. At this rate, I estimated that could amount to another foot of snow. I wasn't thinking big enough, of course. It was more like 3 times that. But if Jason wasn't saying, Trevor wasn't asking. In the end, he didn't let us stay because he trusted us. He let us stay because he drove a two-door Toyota. It was like one step up from a bike, and he wanted to get home sooner rather than later. All right, he said, but go wait by the gymnasium with Gozel. He's in charge of pickups, and they'll be locking all of these other doors in a few minutes anyway. We sat there, our heads tilted up at him. Now, he said, as we climbed to our feet.